All right, good morning, second grade students. Today for science, we are going to be looking at the difference between living and non-living things. So first off, we need to figure out what the difference is between living and non-living things. So the difference between living and non-living things are found by observing their properties. Now, properties can describe how an object looks, how an object feels, and how an object behaves. Remember, we had talked about the properties of matter, so this kind of goes along with that. So we talked about solids, liquids, and gases being properties. So now with living and non-living things, the properties we're going to be looking at is how an object looks, feels, and behaves. And the big point we need to remember is that all things on Earth have properties. So we're going to do a living test. So these are questions you can always ask to figure out if an item is considered living. So first off, can it move? The big one is, can it move on its own? So for example, we have a cheetah, and a cheetah can move on its own. So we can say, can it move? Yes. Next is, can it grow? So does it start out small and does it get bigger over time? Such as a plant. So you might start with a seed, and as the days go by, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Can it breathe? So that's another big question to ask is, does it breathe? Because if it is a living object, it has to be able to breathe. So for example, humans, we would not be alive if we could not breathe. Another one would be animals. They could not live if they could not breathe. Next is, does it react? So does it react to its surroundings? Does it get cold? Does it get warm? Does it do different things in different environments? So for example, a dog reacting to a ball being thrown at it. And does it reproduce? So is it able to have babies? So here we have a penguin mother with its child. So these are the questions that we can ask ourselves if we want to figure out if something is living. All right, now we have the non-living test. So does someone or something else have to make it? So for example, an airplane. An airplane doesn't just come from out of nowhere. Someone has to build it. So it's able to move, but somebody had to create that airplane. Next is, does someone or something else have to move it? So here we have a wave in the ocean. So we know that a wave doesn't just move on its own. The wind and the tide can be factors in the water moving. Another good example would be a rock. We all know a rock is as dead as can be, and the only way a rock can move is if something else moves it, such as a person picking it up and moving it to a new location, or maybe water from like a flood was so forceful that it moved the rock. And was it once living but not anymore? So this one is a little bit different because this is kind of the once, this would kind of go into its own category of like once living. So we could do that with like fish bones. A big one would be like dinosaur bones. We know at one point a dinosaur would be a living object, but then just as people and animals die, it was once living, but now is no longer living. All right, so let's just quickly talk about the plant kingdom. So plants don't move from place to place like animals do. So plants make their own food using sunlight and other substances around them. All plants have many cells in them. Humans also have cells. And then many plants also have organs, just like humans do. All right, and we're going to finish off here with talking about the animal kingdom. So animals cannot make their own food. They get food from other living things such as plants. So most animals move around to capture or gather their food. And so moving also helps animals find shelter, escape danger, and find mates. And all animals have many cells. So in all animals except the sponge, these cells form what is called tissues. And then in most animals, these tissues then form larger organs. All right, so that is our lesson for today.